great to be with you today. My name is John Mallett. Welcome to our podcast, Leaving Your Legacy, Stories about Homeownership. It's great to be here today. And we love the idea of homeownership with a legacy because it means that when you own a home, it's intergenerational. Your family lives there. Your family grows up there. You live there. And it's everything that has to do with life. And so we're excited to have you today. We're very excited to have our guest today, Sussan Rouhafza. Sussan is from Keller Williams here in Westlake Village, California. And we're very excited because she has a very interesting background that I think will really give some real insight into the real estate professional, to the profession, and to what homeownership is really all about. So Sussan, it's great to be with you today. Thank you for being here. I want to know a little bit about your last name. What does that mean?
Thank you for having me. My last name is Rouhafza, means good soul.
Good soul. Well, yes. I can see that.
Yeah.
As we work together, I can see that
Thank
is.
you.
So it's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now. Just to kind of start off with is for our real estate community. A lot of agents are struggling right now. It's a new paradigm shift out there. People have had to pivot. Their cheese has been moved, so they got to find out where the cheese is at, so that they can continue to provide for their families and offer service to their clients. So tell me what you're doing right now, Sussan, that's helping you, that's making it so that you are being successful and being able to thrive in this market.
The market has been very volatile. And a lot of buyers and sellers are not sure what they want to do. And I believe in having more conversation with the client. We need to educate ourselves first, so we can educate our client. And we need to think about when we started this business, how it was. We really needed to put a lot into it to be successful. And I believe that that's where we are right now. We need to make more conversations. The more conversation we have, the more appointment we can make.
So when you talk about education, what are you referring to for your own self and for educating the clients?
Well, I think that I always don't listen just to the news. My background is science, so I read a lot about what's going on in the market. I think having the strong education about the market that you are in is extremely important. And the more you know about your market, it will help you to help your clients.
Right.
And also knowing about the mortgage, knowing a little bit, being in contact with your lender to find out what is going on in the lending.
That's huge. That's huge.
That absolutely is huge.
You may have clients that were qualified 3 weeks ago that are not qualified now.
Absolutely.
Because, the rising rates.
Absolutely. And the very first thing that I always, if I'm working with the buyer, I need to make sure that they are pre-approved.
Right.
And the first thing a lot of time the buyers ask, what is the interest rate? And I have to tell them that this is a conversation you should have with your lender, because it has so many variables, and it all depends on where you are.
So what are you finding that your clients and the people that you're engaging with, because I love the idea of opening up conversation. That's a really big deal to me, because it's only through the conversation that you can really find out what their needs are. And that's one thing that I find about you is you're able to help them feel comfortable to open up to you. So what are some of the things that you talk to them about, that you engage them with, so that you can get a feel for where they're at? So the question is what are some of the aspects that you are educating your clients about? What kind of conversations are you having to help them?
So I really want to know what is that they really need. What is their timeline? If they are living by themselves, are they living are they having families, or what is their special needs that they have? And through doing this, I can really help them and find out how can I really address
Yeah.
their goals.
So that's great. So so what you're saying is you're getting down a little bit deeper to the essence of really what they're all about. And I also find that people generally feel really comfortable with you because for some reason they tell you everything. And, there's some people that you feel like telling everything, and other people you'll guard it, but from Sussan, I've learned that, no, just tell me what's going on and I'll be able to figure it out. And the thing that really is interesting to me is that through the work that we've done together, is that your first priority is to your client. It's not to your pocketbook. It's not to, it's really wanting to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
And I think.
Absolutely. That's always been the case. My mom always told me that you got to do one good thing for one person every day.
Yeah.
And that always stayed in my mind. And I really believe in doing the right thing all the time.
Yeah.
And I never would compromise that.
Yeah.
For my business, because if I do the right thing, everything else will come.
Yeah, everything else falls into place.
It will fall in place. Yeah. So
okay, so here's my next question. My question I'm really intrigued on is, how did you get into real estate? And I love to ask this question. I ask it on every podcast I do. And the reason I do it, I just love it, because nobody really comes out of college and says, I want to be a real estate professional. It's usually something that comes along in their life that makes it so that they want to step up and step into that business. And because being a real estate professional or agent is not easy. It really takes a lot of education. It takes a lot of time. And on this podcast, our desire is to find agents who are really professional. In other words, this is their career.
Yes.
Right? And what leads up to that career is always so fascinating to me. So tell me a little bit about how you started out, and I want to hear a little bit about your family background growing up.
Yes. I actually was born and raised in Iran.
Uh-huh.
And I grew up with a family that was very much academic oriented.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. And it was 5 of us. And we all have a higher education. I went to the only international university in our country that the language of instruction was English.
Wow.
And it was, all our books was coming from the United States, from UPenn. And that's how, and I got into, my major was chemistry undergraduate.
Chemistry.
Yes.
Wow.
And be honest with you, half of the people that was admitted to that school had to drop out because it was not easy.
So it's difficult. So I bet it is. I mean, chemistry is another language. So what was it about chemistry that you liked more than any other subject that you chose?
Well, I always been in science, and I always was interested in chemistry to know everything about it. So I started in chemistry, but then then I went to medical school.
Uh-huh.
I went again to only international university in the country that was based on what United States was doing. We had to graduate, you have to get your degree, and then you apply for medical school.
Right.
You do MCAT, and you do a lot of interviews, and you get admitted. And so I was fortunate enough to get admitted to medical school. But towards the first year of medical school, I met my husband that I knew from before.
Uh-huh.
And we decided to get married, and I moved to United States.
Wow.
And in here, I applied for graduate school, and I got my master's degree in biochemistry. And started work. My very first job was Washington University School of Medicine.
So I have a question for you. When you were in Iran, was chemistry something that was not something that was for women, generally speaking? Were you in your class? Were you?
No, that was not the case. I mean, you apply for in Iran is a little bit different. So you apply, and then they will see where you get admitted to a major.
I see.
So that's how it is.
So you have
how
the
it does work.
competency to be able to do that.
Yes.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yes,
That's
that's how it was.
And the reason why I ask that is that it really takes a lot of initiative. It takes a lot of drive to do what you did. I mean, it's got to be, I mean, really difficult. So the actual drive that you had
Absolutely.
to succeed was unbelievable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I have two sons, and they always, when they were in a school, he said, "Mom, how did you study chemistry?" Chemistry was not easy for them, but anyway. So I went to graduate school after we were in Illinois at the time. My in-laws lived in Napa, so we moved to California.
California, okay.
And I started working as a research scientist for 22 years in Roche Bioscience in Palo Alto.
Wow.
And
what were you doing for them?
I was doing research, and I
Mhm.
worked for inflammation, fibrosis, and arthritis.
Wow.
That was my research. And be honest with you, it was extremely rewarding working in research,
Yeah.
and that was really always my passion. However, I had to do some surgeries, and my
Okay, so going back to the research, that's really interesting to me because I would think that as a real estate professional, one of the most important things is if you were representing me, I would want a real estate professional or agent that really researches.
Absolutely.
And I have a feeling that you really are very thorough about finding out what the house is worth, not only doing that, but looking at the house in detail as to what's wrong with it or what's right with it. You know, all the details about it that a lot of people miss.
Absolutely.
So that is a really interesting. So I'm starting to see how this is kind of building because
Yes.
I'm finding that individuals who really take the business seriously, they're bringing with them certain characteristics. And I can already see that this is really developing. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, I am very detail oriented. I am very organized and like you said, researching was
Yeah.
number one.
right.
So I do not remember within the last 10 years that I've been with KW, for all the listing that I had, with the exception of one, they were never asked me any question regarding the price that I would tell them, this is the price, because I would go with numbers. I will show them exactly.
Right.
And they always, agreed in
Yeah.
the price that I
Okay,
offered to
so
them.
go ahead and move forward then. So after California, then what happened?
So after my husband's job transferred to New York,
Right.
and at the time I was healing myself,
Mm-hmm.
and the agent that I was working with, she told me that, Sussan, you have so much passion, and you really, the questions that you ask about the home that you're looking, because we were going to buy a home in New York, and which we did with this agent. So she was the one who told me that, why don't you think about real estate? And honestly, that was not something that was in my mind.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I said, yeah, maybe I can do that. So I actually got my license, and the feeling of seeing people achieve their goals was amazing to me, that I could help them and treat them like my own family, and be very genuine in what I do.
Yeah.
And they could see through me
So what's really fascinating to me is you had the capability to continue your career in science, right? I mean, after
Yes.
all the work that you've done, you would have been very highly sought after. And instead, what you did is you went for something that was totally different,
Yes.
right? And what seemed to drive you was the idea of your interaction with people, because in the laboratory, you're not having a lot of interaction,
Correct.
right? And so
Yes.
here you had something where you could bring a science background with you into all of a sudden something that is powerful and meaningful on a much deeper level
Yes.
with people individually.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really was the
And so
was the
so the
case.
driving force. So when you talk about seeing the joy of people achieving their goals and their dreams, what does that mean to you? Give me an example of what that would look like?
Well, I think when someone trusts you with the most important decision of their life and the biggest investment of their life, you need to really respect that
Yeah.
and put yourself in their position. And I always done that. I always felt that these people are trusting me in the biggest investment of their life.
Right.
And how can I not to? And I honestly always been available to them. No matter where I am, within 10 minutes, they can hear back from me, whether I'm in a meeting or whatever it is. I think to be responsible and being committed in what you do, that is what really.
And so where do you think that comes from? Just briefly, where do you think your drive to be able to help people and to be able to be committed, where does that come from, do you think?
I think it's the way I was raised, because I believe it's the family that my dad and my mom, they were extremely always working with high ethics, no matter what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I think I was raised with that to do it that way. And like I said, we are 5 brothers and sisters, and we were all been very successful. And we all of us with higher education. But that was the drive that I remember. My mom was always helping us to study and always advance in whatever we were doing.
Oh,
and I think that's where it came, really. It's just from the family, from the way. And, when I see my son, that he's a lawyer now, and I did the same thing for them. I was their coach. I was telling them that how important the education is. My dad always told us, the education is your wealth.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
So,
and that's why you're so well informed as a real estate professional.
Yes.
You really educate yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. That really is. I always think that education is power. You can never have enough education. You should seek for education.
Uh-huh. And why do you say it's power? I agree with that, but I want to hear your take on that.
Well, because the more you learn, the more you can educate others. That's basically what it is. I always felt that if I learn more, if I know the answers to the questions that my clients are going to ask me, it's going to make them feel more comfortable to move forward with what they are going to do next.
Very good. Now that's really powerful. Really powerful, because what that does is it puts you into a position to where you truly are the professional. That's truly a career. So what are some of the things, if we were to talk about, so after New York, you came back out to California.
Yes.
And then you've been with Keller Williams, you were in San Francisco, and now you're here in the Westlake area.
Yes.
And what do you think, Sussan, what are the things that make you a little bit different, would you say? And I know that we've talked about that a little bit, but I'd like to get into that a little bit deeper of what it is that you are really focused on when you work with your clients, either a buyer or a seller.
I honestly believe in my core value of integrity and dignity and being sincere to my clients
Mhm.
and listening to them. And I would, like I said, I would never compromise that for any reason. You got to do the right thing all the time.
There you go.
And that is what really, I feel that sets me apart.
And I totally agree with that. So when I say just a little bit, I'm being facetious.
Yes.
Because it's like, okay, the gold for a relationship is really in somebody's ability to trust you,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, that's where it's at.
This is a relationship business.
Right.
And people that they should like you and trust you to work with you. And I was fortunate enough that the people that I worked with could trust me, and I always had a successful result.
Yeah. And give me an example of what that would look like with a client maybe that you've worked with in the past.
Well, like I had a neighbor that she had, it's emotional for me, but I will tell you about it.
Okay.
She had an accident several years back, and she had a lot of back problem, and her husband was an engineer and had a stroke, and she was hospitalized, and I would go to the hospital 3 times a week, and she put my name as a person that talked with them.
Yeah.
Because their children they were at the time in Southern California. So I actually took my time, and because after the stroke, even doing the seller property questionnaire, which is one of the forms that we do, that we have to work with the seller, I really have to sit down with them for several hours because he was not able to do it. So it took a lot. It takes a lot out of you to do things like this. And I was really happy to be able to help them to achieve their goals. They needed to sell their home. They needed to move to a assisted living and all of that. And just going through this process was really rewarding for me because I could see that how much they trusted me about everything that they were going to do.
Yeah, I would also think that what comes to my mind as we talk about that is the difference that you made in their lives.
Absolutely.
See, I mean, now that it's one thing for people to trust you, which is a really big deal, right? Especially as a real estate professional. It's another thing for you to be able to make a difference in their lives.
Honestly, John, I always went above and beyond a role of a real estate agent. I really did. In all of my transactions, it makes me emotional. But
yeah, I can see that, and you still do that. I mean, that's generally what you do. That is what Sussan is somebody who really goes. Wants to make a difference in a person's life.
And I got the reputation of being transparent and honest with my brokerage and with the real estate agents that I worked with, that it really benefited my clients in negotiation because they trust me and they know how I work, and I work with extreme high ethics. So never sugarcoat anything for my buyers, sellers, or the other agent. It's all about the truth about what I'm doing.
Yeah. So it also makes a big difference when the listing agent knows you and you make the offer on the buyer's behalf.
Right.
They say, well, we know Sussan. I mean, that's going to make a big difference.
Absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. So the thing that I sense is that you you bring a deeper care of concern for your clients. And how did you, this may be a little bit off base, but I think it's kind of an interesting question just to ask you. So as a mother growing up with your children, not you growing up, but your children growing up, what were some of the aspects about raising your children? Because your children are successful, and I think our listeners and viewers would love to learn about what helps make children successful. So, because that translates, your skills as a mother mixed with this idea of science. So you've got this compassion, but you've also got this regimen and this discipline.
Absolutely.
And so what advice would you give parents? And as you've been so successful raising children, tell me a little bit about that.
I really did what my parents did for us. First of all, I think you got to be friends with your children. And I felt that they should feel very comfortable talking with you, no matter what is happening in their life. And my both sons, they were, academic was always extremely important for me. My husband was in fashion and sales, so it's completely different than what I did. So I was the one that really been their coach, and I always told them that no matter what is going in your life, you need to talk about it, even if it hurts, because I might get upset at you, but then at least I can help you.
Yeah.
And I remember I was, sitting with my children doing their homework. I was, very much disciplined about that. I always had a lot of discipline about how I want my kids to grow up and be educated. And when we were applying for schools, it was just, I was their coach. I remember that they were telling me that, cool. You can hire someone to apply for the schools and FAFSA and all of those things. And I said, no, I can do it. And I did all of that for my kids. And, we've been really blessed. We have done everything, every vacation, everything with our kids. We never left them to go on vacation by ourselves. And so we have been extremely close family. And it's just a lot of caring, I think.
And I can see how that translates into your work.
Yes.
I mean, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
All right. So another question I'm just kind of really intrigued at. What was it like? What was it like coming from Iran? What was when you made that transition? What was that like? I mean, was that what was it? What happened at that?
Oh my God, I was so young when I got married. I was in my early 20s, and you really, it was very different for me. I remember when I came to this country. I mean, I grew up with the family that we had gardener, we had driver, we had 2 maids at home. And here I am by myself with my husband, and I have to really be strong and do the things that I wanted to do. I was very I was very disciplined. I took my GRE even before I came to this country.
Wow.
And when I it was interesting for me because when I was in graduate school, I knew my spelling much better than the people that live in this country. And they would ask me,
Right.
how do you, all this. So and I should say it's not easy when you come from another country. It takes time. I remember that's another thing. Like when my sister and her husband came to this country, my sister is a pharmacist and her husband is a dentist, and relate that to the real estate.
Yeah.
They moved to Sacramento at the time, and the real estate agent that treated them, just because of a little bit of barrier in English, they were not treated correctly. And for me, at the time I was not in real estate.
Yeah.
But then when I thought about that, I said, oh my God, nobody should be treated because of their language, their race, their color, or anything.
Exactly.
Like that.
Right.
You got to treat everyone the same. You have to look at everyone the same way. Mm-hmm. So that's, you grow up.
Yeah.
And
I would imagine that coming to the United States, immigrating to here, was really, it took a lot of drive and took a lot of patience.
Absolutely.
And you really had to step up your game.
Absolutely.
And I think that as I talk with you and as we get to concluding our time together today, I can see that all of that power, all of that enthusiasm, all of that integrity and ethics and everything that you built up for your life, all is just lasered into your clients, whether they like it or not.
Yes.
They're going to get outstanding service. They're going to get high ethics. They're going to get somebody who researches the daylights out of everything that they need help with.
Yes.
And so they get this product of someone, Sussan, who's going to be able to help them where other people would not.
Absolutely.
And I think that carries a tremendous value. So let me ask you our last question. What is it that you would like to tell, if you knew that everybody in the world would hear you, what is important for you that you would like to leave with us today?
I think I just mentioned that. I think you always need to do the right thing, no matter what you're doing, what stage of your life you are in, and treat people with respect. And if you do that, and look at everyone the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the charity that I am involved is feeding the children. Mm-hmm. And to me, because children don't have a choice. They bring them to this world.
Yeah.
And the idea of a child being hungry, it always been really hard on me whenever I heard that. So I think that there are so many things that we all can do to help each other, but in different ways. And we have to find that ways that we can help them. And that's always been in my head. And that's something that I always told my children.